are, right? We had started looking at what do we want to write into a summary, what sort of information goes into it, what doesn't, and how long it's supposed to be, more or less, and what are some key structural ideas, in a sense, about what actually a summary does, right? What it's supposed to do. And so last week, a few weeks ago, I had sent you, I think, this this summary of a summary. So the sort of some notes on what we discussed last week, right? And so I'm just gonna go over it quickly again. So just in the interest of, you know, synthesizing what we had gone over the week before, so that we can move forward together. And so we had discussed what a summary was, and we said that it's basically when you take the main idea of the text, right? The main argument of a text. We focus on this idea of main argument, which is different from, we said, the main idea. And basically, and you shorten it, right? So these are some of the elements of a summary. So you speak about the main argument of a text, and you write it in brief, right? So you write it in much briefer than the actual text itself. And then it's basically written usually in your own words, we said, right? So it uses some sort of paraphrasing. So it's supposed to show that you've understood the text. So that's why it's written in your own words, rather than just borrowing the words of the author. With the exception of specific concepts. Of course, you are always welcome to use specific concepts in the summary that you can't translate or you can't find synonyms of, because sometimes there are some concepts which you just have to write the way they are. So then we said that generally, and this is the most important part, I think, that we said last time. So we said that, in a sense, a summary is almost like we said, a good recipe, right? So it gives you, just like when you're cooking, it should give you basically the main ingredients of what the text was and present in the text, as well as it should tell you how these ingredients were interacting in the text. So how in a sense, how you're putting them all together. And I think that's the most important part. Like, how do we put all the ideas that are contained in a text, right? How do we put them all together again in a way that makes sense to someone who hasn't read it? So usually we're supposed to think of a summary in the way that it is something that we prepare for others, right? For other people who have not read it. So what would you tell someone about a text who has never read that text before? Or the other way to think about a summary is to think about it in the sense of what do I take from this text and for future use. So how do I want to use this text in the future? For example, what I learned from this text in the future. And this is actually this last part is crucial in when we do our MRPs, when you'll be working on your MRPs, because you'll be doing a lot of reading, right, for your MRPs. You'll be reading a lot of articles, a lot of chapters, a lot of books, right? And obviously, you're not gonna, you won't be able to rewrite everything in your MRP. You'll just have to really focus on specific points from each article or specific points from each text. And summaries are crucial because they can help you understand what it is from that text that is useful to you, to your research. So being able to write good summaries helps you use resources, helps you use texts for your own research, basically for your own research. So you will read texts, you will draw on those texts to then write your own work, right? So in a sense, it's always good to know what a text is giving you, what an author is presenting you, and how it's useful to you. Okay, so that's basically, those are some of the ideas, some of the reasons why we summarize. And it also tells us a little bit more about what is important that is contained in a summary. So last week, we said that when we summarize, generally speaking, we're always aiming for 6 to 8 sentences, right? We said no more than that. So we're supposed to aim for about 250 words and 6 to 8 sentences. And that the main topic discussed, we want the first sentence to be the main topic that is discussed. So we want to identify the main topic. We want to say how the main topic was discussed. So basically the author's position on the main topic, which usually typically is between 2 to 3 sentences, right? We want to say what the intentions of the author were. So what were the goals that the author was trying to achieve in writing this text? And those are also usually 2 to 3 sentences. And then whether the author has successfully accomplished her intentions. So was the author successful, for example, in showing what she wanted to tell us? And whether, so in other words, or were there any gaps that she left in the text, right? Were there any gaps that she didn't actually cover, which you found when reading? And that's usually another 1 to 2 sentences. So this is typically what we want to see in a good summary. So a good summary will tell you what the main topic was, how the main topic was addressed by the author, what the intentions of the author were in discussing this main topic, and whether that author was successful in showing you and demonstrating their argument basically about this main topic. That's typically a good summary. And as you can tell, it requires us to really, really, really understand the text. Like, it's not just about picking up on some of the ideas that are presented in the text, but when we want to summarize, we really want to make sure that we've grasped pretty much everything about the text, but somehow but not in the sense of we want to report everything, but we need to understand everything so that we understand how things are connected to each other in the text, how ideas are presented together. Okay, so that does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about this, like this first this brief summary of last week's what we had seen last week together? Any questions, concerns, comments about this? So about a structure of a summary, about the purpose of a summary. Any questions or concerns about this first part? I don't see any. I don't think I see anyone unmuting. Please, if I can't really see everyone because I'm screen sharing. So if someone wants to speak up, just please speak up. Okay. I don't think I see anyone. Okay, so that's good. That means that there's, in a sense, there's no questions about what a summary should do or what it is, right? What it contains. So that's good. I'm glad about that. So maybe what we can do is we can continue with I'll show you. I don't know if you did anyone have a chance to look at the notes that I prepared last week, like these notes here? Did anyone have a chance to have a look at them? I imagine maybe not because of the data bundle problem. So I'll show you, for example, a sample of a summary. This is a sample that I've prepared of a text that we've looked at together, right? So I think you all remember this text. We looked at this together. This is one of the texts that you were supposed to do. Keen, tell me, please. I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I remember this text. It was the last text that we have been discussed about how to do for it the summary writing.
That's right.
I remember I and Aden and also yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, Keen. So the text, if you remember quickly, the text was about basically nervous breakdowns, right? So the author was talking about nervous breakdowns, and then she was talking about specifically a woman called Jacqueline. So what I did is I tried summarizing it using basically the same structure that we just said. And so what I want you to do is I want you to listen to the summary, and also you can also read it if you want, of course, right? And then tell me if you think if it's complete, if it's telling, if it's communicating the meaning and the points and the ideas in the text well. So this is what a possible summary might look like. So the text explores the concept of nervous breakdowns. The author locates the cause of nervous breakdowns in the sadness and challenges faced in our everyday lives, in our relationships with others. She is critical of the superficiality with which medical attitudes simply dismiss nervous breakdowns. Although it is nearly impossible to physically identify the site of the pain, the author believes they cause terrible suffering. To demonstrate the social origin of nervous breakdowns, she uses the example of Jacqueline, a woman who moved to a new community out of love for her husband. Jacqueline's breakdown was a result of the marginalization experienced in her new community and family on the basis of her religious difference. Does that summarize, do you think, the text well? Like based on what you remember of the text, right? Would you say that this is a fair summary of it? Chipchumba.
Yeah, I cannot say it's a fair summary, but I can say it's the
Yes.
best. You have done it all.
I've done it all.
The summary, because when you say it's fair, it means there is something missing, but I can see the information is that you have explained everything, the topic, sentence, and whatever, all those things are there. So if a person does not read the first paragraph or the first text, reading this alone is enough.
Okay, thank you, Chipchumba. So, but you said, can I actually ask you something, Chipchumba? You said I put a topic sentence, right? Which one, where's the topic sentence?
That is the concept of nervous breakdown. That is the nervous breakdown.
That's right. Yeah, that's a very good point. So I start right away. So you start right away, for example, by mentioning the topic, right? The topic that's addressed. And the topic of the text is nervous breakdowns, we said, right? So that's essential in a summary, because the first thing you want to do is you want to tell the reader right away, this is what the text is about, right? This is what it's about.
Hello.
Yes, Rukia, tell me.
Yeah, I was asking, though we are required to use our own words, why have you used the original word? Because I can see nervous breakdown is already in the original text. Why should we repeat when we are summarizing and we are using our own word? Is it necessary? Yeah.
That's a really great question, actually, Rukia. So when it comes to you're right. Typically, we want to try to use our own words as much as possible. However, so the however is, Rukia, that when there are main concepts and main topics, then we need to use those same words, right? Because we want to communicate exactly the same words used by the author in that specific case. So when they are the crucial ideas of a text, for example, the crucial concepts of a text, that's when we reuse the same ideas. Basically, we reuse the same idea, the same word that was used, the very same word that was used by the author. So you're right. I used nervous breakdowns, which was exactly the word used by the author. I also used other words here and there, which were used by the author, if you notice. So you'll notice that there are other important words that I took from the text and I used again, right? So if I were to write this in my, okay, so let's say I was writing an MRP on nervous breakdowns, right? My paper on nervous breakdowns, and I were to use this text as an example of an author that's speaking about nervous breakdowns. What I would do is I would have to, and I include it, so I would include this summary of a text inside my own work, right? I would have to then reference the keywords. The keywords would have to be referenced in my paper because they are keywords that I took from the author. So going back to your question, Rukia, yes, you can use keywords and key concepts from the author, the same words, but you have to make sure then that you reference them if you're writing this in a separate paper, if you're using this in a separate paper. But yes, you can use specific words that the author used, but the majority of the words there should be your own. Does that make sense, Rukia? So like, tell me.
It's very clear.
Yeah, so the majority
it's very clear
of
because in my own paper, when I'm writing the main paper, everything that is original should be referenced, and as you use your own words by through paraphrasing, maybe you can do a citation, maybe. Yeah.
That's right, Rukia. Yeah, when you paraphrase too, you should always, that's right, you should always reference as well. But so if we go back with any other comments, Aden, I think I saw you unmuted at one point. I wanted to make a comment.
Yeah. I wanted to say that the way you have summarized is you have hit the nail on the head, and then with a brief size summary, you have summarized it and then think. I wanted to ask also the question that was raised by Ruqayya, but I have understood the way you have said, and the topic sentence will not change, but you can use with your own words, as you said. Thank you. That.
Thank you, Aden. And I mean, thank you all for your compliments. I actually think if I have to say something, I actually think if I have to be critical of my own work, I would say that it's too long, in a sense, because these were only 3 paragraphs. So in a sense, I counted them. I wrote them right here, 116 words I used to summarize them, which is not bad. It's not bad, but I think I could have done even better. I could have even been better at summarizing it. I could have even used maybe even less words than 116, but we'll leave that for now. So maybe if I had to be a little bit critical of myself, I know you guys were being very, very nice towards my work, but if I were to be critical of my work, I would say I could have used even a little bit, maybe less words to summarize it if I was even better. But the point being that there's always, you can always make it. All I'm saying is that you can always make something better, right? You can always work on it a little bit more. And I obviously did this quite quickly. It was just to show you what a sample summary might look like. So if we break it down, right? If we break it down compared to if we break it down compared to what we said initially, to the structure, remember the structure that we were saying that I was showing you guys before? So if we break it down, so we have the text explores the concept of nervous breakdowns. Main topic discussed, 1 sentence, done. We said what the main topic of the text was, right? 1 sentence. The author locates the cause of nervous breakdowns in the sadness and challenges faced in our everyday lives, in our relationship with others. 1 sentence. She is critical of the superficiality with which medical attitudes simply dismiss nervous breakdowns. 2nd sentence. Although it is nearly impossible to physically identify the site of the pain, the author believes they cause terrible suffering. 3rd sentence. All of these 3 sentences are how is the main topic discussed, right? How the author's position on it. So what does the author believe about this main topic? What is the author telling us about this main topic? What is their position on it, right? So we know that the author says that she locates the cause in sadness and challenges and in our relationship with others. She's critical of the way that doctors address nervous breakdowns because they believe that they don't really exist. And then because it is hard to identify the site of pain. But the author believes even though the site of pain is hard to identify, they still cause terrible suffering. So this is all about, if you can tell, these are all about the positions of the author. So it's how the author is discussing the main topic of nervous breakdowns, right? And then finally, we have the intentions of the author, right? And whether there are any gaps. And so I said, to demonstrate the social origin of nervous breakdowns, she uses the example of Jacqueline, a woman who moved to a new community out of love for her husband. 1 sentence. So this is 1 sentence. It tells the reader, what is the author doing, right? What is the author doing in order to prove her points about nervous breakdown? So she's using an example, in this case, to demonstrate what she's arguing. And then I give a little bit of information, right? A little bit of information on how she used Jacqueline's example. Jacqueline's breakdown was a result of the marginalization experienced in her new community and family on the basis of her religious difference. 2nd sentence. Now, this could technically have more, right? As you can tell, I said, usually we would also address the gaps. So usually we would also say the author successfully demonstrated this or the author unsuccessfully demonstrated this, and we would say why. But however, I couldn't do this for this specific paragraph. Why? Because it was just an extract of a larger text, right? So this was just a piece, remember? This was just an extract from a larger book. So obviously I can't judge the completeness of the argument. I can't judge whether the author was complete or not because I haven't read the whole book. So we don't know if she goes on about it and actually proves it successfully or not. But for the purposes of this paragraph, we know that this is what she did. And we don't, and that's all. Does that make sense? How does that look like? So you can see the structure, right? We can see the structure that we saw before. So these 2 or 3 sentences on how the topic is discussed, and then 2 or 3 sentences on the intentions of the author and whether it was successfully reached or not. And so all of this is basically, there's your summary. So main topic, how it was discussed by the author, and the intentions and what was achieved in a sense in the article. Yeah, you can see that, right? You can see the structure. Aden, I see you're muted yourself.
Yeah, it is clear and precise that we can use these two instructions by using now steps that you have said that it is clear and precise you can use.
Perfect, Aden. Yeah, so it's a structure that you can replicate and you can reproduce, Aden. That's exactly what I'm trying to give you, right? Like a structure that you can now that you know the structure, you can reproduce it and use it for your own summaries. So you can make sure that you always have a main topic, a few sentences on how it is discussed, and a few sentences on the intentions. Are there any, apart from comments, are there any questions about this? Anyone wants any clarification about this? Or is it clear, like the structure? Because if it is clear, what we'll do is we'll now go on to actually trying one but together. Chachumba, I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, let me seek clarification on.
Please.
I can see we are talking about the main topic sentence or the main ideas, the main arguments discussed as we summarize a text. To what extent is it allowed? Because if we talk about main, there are some other statements that we may miss out from the summary. So to what extent, having picked the main information that you personally was looking for, to what extent or to what percentage is it allowed that you leave some information as you summarize?
That's a really excellent question, Chachumba, and I think that is a question that we also were discussing last week. I remember Ruki, I think, had a similar question last week too, but I think you weren't there, Chachumba. But this is an excellent question, and you're right. So we'll always leave out something in a summary, right? We just have to, because I mean, in order to summarize something, you have to leave something out, Chachumba. That's just how it is, right? Like you can't, otherwise you'd be reproducing the text again in the same way, and it's not a summary, right? So you're absolutely right. We do leave things out. So your question is, how do we know what to leave out? I guess, right, Chachumba? Is that what you're asking? How do we know what to leave out?
Yeah.
So because I mean, there is no percentage. I can tell you that much. There is no percentage. So like, there is no way of telling like, you know, there's this much you leave out, this much you put in. It's really just about, what I would say is, it's about understanding what the main topic at the end of the text is, in a sense. So in a sense, most topics, especially research topics, right? The Chachumba research papers, sorry, I should say, most research papers will have a main topic. And what we mean by that is, what is the main argument that is being put forward, right? So what is it really about? What is the main subject matter? So it could be the main subject matter is let's say it's inclusive education, or the main subject matter is gender gap, right? Like these kind of things. So these are usually the broad ideas, the sort of broader idea that or broader subject that the text is engaging, Chachumba. And then obviously within that, the author will present lots of ideas, lots of tools, but we have to then be selective, right? And the way we are selective is based also on the use that we want to make of that article, Chachumba. So in a sense, it really depends. So apart from the main topic, which I mean, that you can't escape, in a sense, you'll have to find what the broader subject of a paper is. But apart from that, we can then choose to include whatever we need, in a sense, from that article, right? Chachumba, it depends from the use we want to make of it. Because me and you, Chachumba, could read the same article, and we could probably come up with a very different summary of it. And the reason why is simply because, the reason why that happens is simply because we will read that article or that chapter or that book, we will read that text with a different purpose in mind, right? So maybe you're reading it for your MRP, and you're writing your MRP on a specific subject, right? So you're reading it to look for some key ideas with your subject. I'm reading that same paper, but I'm reading it for my own dissertation. And so maybe I'm looking for something else in that paper. You see what I'm saying, Chachumba? So it really, what I'm trying to say, it really depends on the purpose with which you read a text. It really depends on the purpose with which you read the text. And that will dictate what you include and what you exclude from a summary. But generally speaking, you really want to just make sure that that you've addressed the main topic, which again is the broad subject or the broad idea discussed, and you want to make sure that you said a few words about how the author is discussing it. So what is the author's position on that main subject? Does that make sense, Chichumba? Does my answer make sense? Or if you haven't, please tell me if you have any more questions on it. If it wasn't.
No, it's okay. You know, the way I was talking about it, when I read this summary of yours, this summary on this text, in a sense, to make it shorter, if you remove some words, for example, when you come to that, although it is nearly impossible to physically identify the site of the pain the author believes they cause terrible suffering. So if you try to make that, you say it's, although it's, or it's add, you can even leave the word although, you say it is add to identify the site of pain. So now it changes the statement. If the author reads the statement, he or she had a very strong reason for adding the word physically. But because I'm just going to reducing the words, I can assume I ignore the physical, I ignore the although and the other words, bringing another new text. So that is what I'm saying. Sometimes we may, as we summarize, we may overlook the important words according to the author when we are intending to carry out, to fit on our own meaning. Because now I can read there, maybe for example, an enemy of the people.
Yes.
The way you read it and your setting, you know, that your setting in Canada is not the same setting I am in Africa.
Yeah.
So with my setting, I may tend to understand more an enemy of the people, other than you trying to think, to figure out, oh, what could these people be believing in? Something like that. So if there is that freedom that we can summarize a text according to my understanding, you summarize according to your understanding, Adam summarizes according to his understanding, then it's very okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Chipchumba. And I think I mean, that was a wonderful point. And what I'm understanding from it, Chipchumba, are two things. There are two different things that I'm understanding. Wait, before I go though, I think Adam, did you want to make a point? Did you also want to add a comment to that? Tell me.
Yeah, Mikro. And I think the way Chipchumba is saying, and when we are doing summary, I think it doesn't need that to summarize one word by one word. You know, is the way you say it in the first place. You take the main point of that paragraph, and then you do summary. But it's not relevant that you do one word by doing summary. No, I think it's not needed. And that's what you're asking, I think, Lumba.
Yeah, no, Chipchumba's point, I think there's a few things that Chipchumba was saying. One of them is definitely that, Adam, but there's a few things that Chipchumba is saying. One of them is definitely the way that our experience, our personal experiences, like they change our understanding of a text. And I think that's the last point Chipchumba made, and that was very important to Chipchumba. You're right. So if we read the same text, you're right. Our the way we understand the text, what we take from a text, will be different based on our experiences of the context of that novel, as well as you made that specific example with Enemy of the People. But no, I said okay. Anyways, you made that specific example with the novel with Chinua Achebe's novel, I think. But you're right. It will be different, right? It will be different. Absolutely, I agree with you. Now, there's a difference between, however, how our interpretation colors and changes and affects our reading of a text and the main argument of a text. Like it's a slightly different. And I think the example you gave is really, really good, Chipchumba. You said I could take out physically. You said, right? If you could take out physically, if you were trying to reduce the number of words, right? Chipchumba said. But if you do that, you take away a key idea that the author was putting forward. So, Chepchumba, how did you know that physically is a key idea? If I can ask you, how did you know that because the example you gave is really, really good. How did you know that physically is a key idea? Maybe we can go back to the text, right? Chepchumba?
Yes,
Sorry, I was asking, I don't know if you heard my question.
I heard your question.
Okay, tell me.
Even without going back to the text, going to your summary, we have different types of pain. And one of the pain the author was addressing is the physical pain. That is impossible to physically, yeah. We have sometimes physically identify, you can maybe on other types of identification. So maybe it was just specific on the physical identification.
Correct. So
if I remove the word physically, the author, it will not carry the text the author was intending to pass to the readers.
That's right.
But with me, because I don't want to carry the text of the author, I want to carry my own understanding of the author's text. Then the two texts becomes different. In a nutshell, how we summarize the text, we can either carry the meaning or distort the whole information.
That's right, Chepchumba.
And careful.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And that's why I'm saying when we summarize, that's a really good point that Chepchumba made. I don't know if everyone heard, but so basically what Chepchumba is saying is that the author's intentions are different sometimes than our understanding than the intentions of the author. And so what I'm saying is that a summary is supposed to do a really good job of telling us the author's intentions, not our understanding of it. Not our understanding, which I know is hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to do, right? Sometimes it's hard to do, but it really requires us to really, for a second, situate us, locate ourselves in the author's shoes. So it really means, when you're having a conversation with someone, right? You're having a conversation with someone, you're having a dialogue with someone, like right now, we're having a dialogue, right? Yeah. In order to really understand what the other person's saying, we say that sometimes we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? In order to understand what the person is telling us. So this is the same thing that you do in summarizing. You have to really, really, for a second, abstract yourself from yourself, in a sense, and think like the author is thinking. Just for a second, even if you don't agree with the author, you have to sort of abstract yourself and think like the author is thinking, and think, okay, the author is saying these specific points. Why is the author saying these specific points? What is she trying to get at, right? And so that's the kind of reading that we want to do of a text. Now, you're right, Chepchumba. Sometimes our interpretations will still be there, and that's inevitable. But we want to be what we want to do is we want to do as much of a thorough job as we can in really representing the author's ideas, right? As much as we can, obviously. And then obviously then we can use, our side comes in because then we can use these ideas for our own understandings, right? So then we can argue that's why the last few sentences of a summary are identifying gaps, because we can say, well, the author missed out on this, right? The author missed out on this part, and this part was important to his or her argument, right? So that's when our understandings are on our own ideas kind of come in, and then also we can use the summaries for our own papers, right? So we can then summarize someone's ideas and say, actually, well, this author missed out on this part, and this is what I'm arguing, that the author missed out on this part, and I'm arguing this based on my own experiences, based on my own observations, based on my other readings that I've done. Does that make sense? Chepchumba and everyone, not just Chepchumba, but everyone. So there is a way of adding our understandings and our readings and our interpretations of arguments, but there's also a way in which we try to just lay forward and lay out the author's ideas. So going back to physically, if we go back to physically, for example, the example that Chepchumba brought up. So physically is important. Why? Why do we know that physically is important? Because the whole of the second paragraph, if we notice, the whole of the second paragraph of this text is actually speaking about physical location, right? How we locate physical pain. How do we know? Well, you can just read. You're lucky if they don't, you're wasting their time with the ever-growing list of your illnesses, your head, throat, chest, heart, liver, that no x-ray can confirm, right? So they're talking about all the procedures that are done when we doctors try to locate pain, right? They say they do x-rays, they look at your chest, they look at your liver, they look at your heart, they look at your throat, but they can't find anything. So the physical side is important, right? It's the whole idea of that second paragraph. So if we exclude that word, like Chepchumba was saying, we actually have cut out a whole paragraph. A whole paragraph has gone missing from the summary, right? So we can't cut out a whole paragraph. That's what we're trying to say. So from a summary, we can't cut out a whole paragraph. We have to find a way to sort of capture a whole paragraph in that summary. We don't need to write the whole paragraph, of course, but we need to maybe find one or two keywords from that paragraph that we can use in the summary. So a huge part of doing summaries is really about trying to capture in a single or in very few words what a paragraph is about, what the various paragraphs of a text are about, right? So that's the first exercise in a sense. The first exercise is you read a paragraph and you sort of say, okay, this paragraph is about this. This paragraph is about this. This other paragraph is about this. And that ability to like say it in a few words is crucial, but you need to really be selective. And I think that's what Chepchumba's point is pointing to. You have to be selective of the words that we choose to represent them, because you have to be really, we want to try to be as articulate and as complete and correct as possible. Now, it is 3 p.m. already, so I do want to move to actually trying one together, like trying to do a summary together, if that's okay with everyone. Is that okay with everyone? Can we move to trying to actually trying to work on a summary together? That way we try the exercise, we rehearse the exercise rather than just doing it on your own.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thanks, Adin. I think I heard Chepchumba too, right? Chepchumba, were you asking a question or were you just confirming that we move forward? And by the way, are there any questions?
I was confirming that to move forward.
Thank you, Chepchumba. Any other questions from anyone before we move forward to trying the exercise? Rukia Keen, I didn't hear from you. I hope you're getting me. I hope like the connection is good. I hope you're actually listening in, like you're able to listen in. And
yeah, the connection is good for my side. There's no any question.
Okay, thank you so much, Keen. Thanks for confirming. You know, it helps once in a while just to hear from you, from everyone, just to make sure that everyone's there, that you're actually able to listen in. Because sometimes I know that the connection just falls, and maybe you might have missed quite big like chunks of what was said before. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try to read together a text, and I'll share with you now on the screen. Hopefully, we'll be able to read it together. Here it is. Can you all see it? Is it big enough? Do you want me to enlarge it a little bit, or is it good? Like the size of the actual text? Is it readable on the screen? I hope so.
Yes.
So this is.
Yes, you can see it.
Thank you, Keenan. Thank you, Rukia. Thank you both of you. So this is a text. So it's about a few paragraphs, as you can tell. We'll see how much we can get through of it. But what we really want to do is we want to try to read every paragraph and summarize, in a sense, the key idea or the key word, basically, that captures what is said in that paragraph. All right? So that's what we want to do. And then we want to try to see if by the end we can actually write a summary of the whole text. Let's see how far we can get. So what I'll do is I'll ask someone if someone can read the first paragraph. So from inclusive education to disabilities remain. So any volunteers to take the first paragraph?
Can I volunteer?
Yes, Chepchumba, you can volunteer, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
That's good.
Yeah.
I want to read, but you
I think I heard Keen. Sorry,
Yeah,
Chipchumba. I think I heard Keen too. Keen, is everything okay?
let the jumba continue. I'll read the next one, inshallah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Keen. Sorry about that. Chipchumba, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Inclusive education is an educational philosophy where all students include and receive equitable access to education regardless of their ability, gender, and race. Inclusive education is a strategy based on democratic principles and human rights that aims to address discrimination. As every child has the right to quality education, I believe inclusive education is necessary to achieve an education system that fits the needs of all students, particularly learners with impairments. For instance, in inclusive education, students with disabilities receive services and support that is appropriate to their individual needs in their learning process. While non-governmental organizations, NGOs, providing primary education are trying to ensure inclusive education to all students in Agadera, primary schools, barriers that hinder provisions of inclusive education to learners with disabilities remain.
Perfect, Chipchumba. Thank you so much. Chipchumba, can I ask you, since you were the reader, can I ask you to start us off and tell us what is the, if you had to capture this paragraph in one or two words, just one or two words. So it just basically the main topic of the paragraph, Chipchumba. What would that main topic be?
Inclusive education.
Inclusive education. And how do you know that, Chipchumba?
The whole paragraph is talking about inclusive education throughout to the last bit.
Perfect.
And specifically, the intention of the writer is to focus on the learners with impairments.
Yeah, wonderful. Is there a specific sentence that says that, Chipchumba? Is there a specific point in the paragraph? Tell me.
Yeah, the sentence, as every child has the right to quality education, I believe inclusive education is necessary to achieve an education system that fits the needs of all students, particularly learners with impairments.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chipchumba. That's wonderful. Anyone want to add anything to Chipchumba's reading of the first paragraph in the sense of, by reading, I mean, obviously her understanding of the first paragraph. Anyone, anything that Chipchumba might have missed, or did Chipchumba, you think, did Chipchumba do a really good job with capturing the first paragraph? I think I don't hear anyone. I don't know if Keen.
Yeah. It's also talking about equality.
About inequality, right? Rukia or Keen? I didn't hear. Was it Rukia or was it Keen?
Equality, yeah, it is Rukia.
Rukia, thank you, Rukia. Sorry about that. So equality, it's also talking about equality. Yes, you're right. It is. There's definitely
to all learners, yeah, because it is also looking one aspect when it comes to education that it should be looked at, that is gender, regardless of all those things. All learners of impairment should be taken to school. So equality must also be.
So would you say, Rukia, can I ask you something? Would you say that is the, would you say that that's the author's position on the subject in a sense? Is that how the author sees it?
The author sees that it is one factor that should be reflected in education.
That's right. So it's in a sense this idea of this principle of equality, we can call it that, right? This principle of equality.
And the human right.
Yeah, of equality and human rights is something that is in the author's position, right?
Yeah.
It also talks about democratic principles.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think this is principles of equality, democracy, human rights, right?
Yeah.
These are all very good points, and
also addresses discrimination.
And addresses discrimination, correct. So we can say against discrimination. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chipchumba, and thank you so much, everyone else. This was brilliant analysis of that first paragraph. Perfect. So we have Chipchumba, you gave us our main topic, inclusive education. in this first paragraph. Then Chitumba also gave us the intention of the author. His intention is to focus particularly on learners with impairment. Pardon my mistakes, by the way, guys. I'm making a lot of typos, but sorry about that. Typing live sometimes is a little bit hard. And then the author's positions, right? And which everyone else added in. So this idea that the author is obviously seems to be taking the position of equality, like a belief in equality and the principles of democracy and human rights and against discrimination. So it seems to be, this author seems to be motivated by a sense of wanting to fight against discrimination in a sense, right? He uses this idea of quality education and the importance of, how do we know, is there a specific sentence in this first paragraph that it's like, that aces that really represents this feeling, this position by the author? Is there any sentence there in that first paragraph that you read and you're like, ah, there you go, that's the author's position? Anyone, like what's, is there a specific sentence in that first paragraph that really gives away the, yes, Keen, I see that you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, and so the last paragraph, some of the specific sentence that they are required, almost they talked about in, like says that NGO are provided in primary education is try to ensure that inclusive education. So this inclusive education is mostly talks about the children with a disability. Hence, the refugees, there's most of the times and disability children are not be considered to be given them a chance to be learned. So that means that this whole of this and topics talks mostly talks about the inclusive education, concerns about the disability children.
Yeah, that's correct, Kim. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, you reminded me, if we can actually have a look at, we can count how many times inclusive education is stated in this paragraph, going to Chachumba's point earlier as well. Chachumba said inclusive education is everywhere, and Keen, you said the exact same thing now too, right? Inclusive education is pretty much everywhere in this first paragraph, and we can actually tell me, Keen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because we see that some of the major key idea or the main topic that talks about is almost all about an inclusive education, and this inclusive education comes from when the disability children is to be considered vulnerables, like those who are in high planners, all of those things to be considered. You can see that the most repetition word that guides us all of this inclusive education.
Absolutely, Kim. That's very true. Although the author also tells us that equitable access, it talks about equitable access to education regardless of their ability, gender, and race. So the author also adds other two elements, right, Kim? Not only disability, but also gender and race, as well as other elements.
Not only.
Tell me, Kim.
Yeah, it also talks about the inequality. It also talks about the equality, the ability, gender, racism, all of those things.
Correct.
But when those things comes, then most of those things has been solved in the refugees. So that what nowadays going to be solved, as a contact of in the Dadaab comes, we can say that it is the inclusive education which is going to be solved in these days.
That's correct. That's a very good point, Keen. The author does leave us off with that last sentence that says the barriers still remain for learners with disabilities. Aden, I heard you. Go for it.
What was the question?
I wanted to say that the last paragraph, the second last paragraph, talks about inclusive education that hinders or breaks the barriers that hinders the professions of inclusive education. You know, these disabled learners with a disability. Now, the inclusive education, when it arises now, it hinders or now it breaks the barriers that affecting that to things that stops their to the inclusivity with other learners.
That's right, Aden. So I like that. It's important to emphasize the keyword hinders. That's what you're saying, right? This idea of hindering. So hindering, which means to, creates obstacles or creates barriers in a sense, right? It hinders, it blocks, it stops. to hinder something is to stop something from happening, right? That's right. I think that's a really good point. Rukia, I think I heard your voice at one point. You were asking what the question was, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were just really, the question was just if we were just going through the first paragraph, and I was asking Rukia if there were any specific sentences that really stood out in a sense in justifying our choices. So you know how we said that the main topic is inclusive education. The intention of the author is to focus particularly on learners with impairment, and the author's position is a focus on the principle of equality and democracy, right? So human rights. So I was just going through the first paragraph and asking if we could find evidence of these three things in a sense. Yeah. So we found evidence of the main topic, because inclusive education is mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Am I missing it? Tell me, Rukia.
I think the main idea was inclusive education, and the body should also connect or give much detail about the topic. So evidence is necessary, and evidence we can find within the body that talks much about inclusive education, how is implemented, maybe how inclusive education comes about, how the author wants to affect, to choose the kind of inclusivity that is necessary within the context. So the body basically is the main evidence of the main topic of the sentence. Yeah.
That's right. That's very right. That's very right, Rukia. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move to the second paragraph. Let's see now the second paragraph, how it continues in a sense, how it builds on. So let's think about the connections also, right? As we read the second paragraph to the first, how it continues, how it plays on what we just read. So keeping in mind the main topic, the intention of the author, the positions. Let's see how the second paragraph sort of plays into that. Who wants to read? Who wants to volunteer for the second paragraph?
Let me read it.
Yes, please, Rukia. Absolutely. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Rukia.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready. Can you see? Is it possible? Are you seeing?
Yeah, I can see. Can I start?
Yes, absolutely, Rukia. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, I strongly believe that there is an important correction between the barriers and the difficulties which students with disabilities face. This drives my research interest to seek better understanding of the barriers to inclusive education for learners with disabilities, such as students with hearing, visual, and physical impairment. Therefore, the main purpose of this research is to investigate how their barriers hinder the provision and empowerment of inclusive education within Hagadera primary schools. I became interested in researching the barriers in the provision of inclusive education for learners with impairment after I worked within an education program in Hagadera refugee camp implemented by Windows Trust in International Kenya, WTK. Within this program, I work as remedial teachers for girls who were considered to have low performance and those with learning disabilities.
Wonderful, Rukia. Thank you so much. Rukia, same thing that we did with that Chipchumba did before. Since you've read the paragraph, what do you feel is the main topic of this second paragraph?
Yeah, the barriers, some of the barriers and that had been affecting the learning and environment of that particular child, and some of the interaction he did within the context where he was having that disability learners. Mm-hmm. Some of the issues that had been affecting their learning, the resource, the teachers, the insufficient, all those things impacts of inclusive education. Yeah, and how he came to know, because someone was saying that I came to realize that I had been one of the staff, and I recognized that there had been so many challenges in
That's
inclusive
right.
education. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, Rukia, were you adding anything else? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, the first thing is barriers. The other thing that is barriers to their education,
Uh-huh.
to the learning environment. Yeah, and his role as a worker. Yeah.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. And how he came to know. So his role as a worker. That's right. As a worker. That's really, thank you so much, Rukia, for that very clear explanation. Anything else that you want to add to Rukia's comment? Anyone else who want to add anything about this second paragraph? So perhaps the question can be, how does this second paragraph build on the previous one? What does it add that the previous one did not have? And so how is it different and how is it similar to the one before? So are we still talking about the same topic? The same main topic, and in what does it add that the previous one did not have? I think part of that Rukia already answered. She's already told us.
Yeah.
Yes, Adel.
Mikro.
Yes.
Yeah, the topic sentence in this paragraph is barriers to inclusive education, learners with disabilities.
Correct. Yep. Which is it? Yep.
Yeah. And then now the other intent is that understanding the barriers of English education with learners with disabilities, such as now hearing environment, visual environment, and also VI, which is now visual environment. That's what he has intended the other.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't. Can you? Sorry, you broke off a little bit on my side. Could you repeat that again? The second point that you made. The first one I heard really well. The barriers and difficulties with students with disabilities. That one I heard really well. The second point that you made, unfortunately, I didn't hear it that well. Could you repeat it?
What I mean is that the other intent is understanding the barriers of inclusive education, such as now a student with hearing environment.
Yes, that's right.
And the visual environment, that is VI.
That's
also right. Physical environment.
That's very correct, Adam. Thank you. Yep, absolutely. So in a sense, the main topic of the second paragraph is, the main topic of the second paragraph is like Rukia was saying too, some of the barriers faced by learners and disabilities in education. So the barriers and the difficulties, and specifically, like you said, Adam, like you added to this. So specifically those students with hearing and visual disabilities, right? Students with hearing, visual, and PI. We'll put PI like you said, Adam. I think that's quicker. Absolutely.
Hello.
Yes, Rukia.
Yeah. The other is also doing some connection in a manner whereby the body, some of the statement that was raised, maybe some of the difficulties the learners are facing, he wants to elaborate in detail what the body was talking about. Like some of the difficulties were the parents giving negative attitude, like lack of resources, lack of teachers experience in teaching. So the connection is still having the second paragraph. The third paragraph is an evidence to the first and the second.
That's correct.
Still talking about
You're jumping a little bit ahead, Rukia, but that's good that you did that in a sense, because that's also a strategy to reading, right? You can also sometimes jump ahead and come back again to sort of help yourself understand some of the points. So that's really good. It's a really good strategy actually that you use, Rukia. But what I wanted also to ask, is there any specific sentence in this second paragraph that gives us the purpose of the research? You see the purpose of the research, and which is really what Rukia just said, which is elaborating what the author wants to elaborate on, right? What is it that the author wants to elaborate on? Is there anything in this paragraph, in the second paragraph, not the third, the second paragraph, that gives us the purpose of the research? There is a specific.
He wants to elaborate specifically some of the barriers.
That's
that
right.
hinder their learning. Yeah.
There's an actual sentence, right in the middle here, the center sentence.
Yeah. Problems student face.
That's right. Yeah. So he wants to investigate.
He was targeting the camp in Agadera.
That's correct.
The primary school is in Agadera.
Yeah.
That is his main target, and he wants to specifically talk learners within that school.
Yeah. the provision of inclusive education. So it is, we're still talking about inclusive education, right? Correct? Would everyone agree that we're still talking about inclusive education? We're still speaking about, yes, Kin. That's right. We're still talking about inclusive education, but now we can see how the focus of the paragraph has shifted from a general idea of inclusive education. Kin? We can see how the general, there's a lot of, I'm hearing a lot of background noise. I'm not sure if it. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute Key. I'm gonna have to mute you for a little bit, just so that we can, because there's a lot of background noise coming from your microphone, I think, from your side. Anyways, I was saying, so while the first paragraph though speaks more generally about
yes, and it talks about the,
yes, Keen. Keen dropped out. Okay. Anyways, while the first paragraph talks more generally about inclusive education, now we're more focused on the, like we were saying before, we're more focused on the actual barriers that hinder learners with disabilities, right? And the author had already told us this at the end of the first paragraph, right? That his focus was really with learners on impairments. And now he's continuing on that. So you see that continuation, right?
yes, Macros.
Yes, Keen.
Yes, Macros. Sorry for the interruption I happened.
No,
And
that's
connection
okay.
error. Yeah.
That's okay, Keen. No worries. Did you want to add anything?
There's a people who was disturbing.
I know.
No,
okay.
the point is I want that my colleagues has been added.
Okay. Thank you for joining again, Doki. Thank you for really trying to join. And I know that sometimes it's a little bit difficult with connection, so don't worry about it. But thank you for coming back. Okay, should we move to the? I think we've said everything that's important from the second one. I think we should move to the third paragraph. So let's try to move to the third paragraph. Who wants to volunteer to read the third paragraph? Wait, I'm gonna try to make sure that I can get all of it. Perhaps what I'll do is I'll move this to the, here we go, to the next page. Okay. Who wants to volunteer for the third paragraph? It would be nice if it's someone who hasn't read yet.
Let me read.
Please, Adam. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll zoom it in a little bit, Adam, so that you can see it a little more. And
It's okay.
That's good. Go for it, Adam.
Yeah,
whenever you're ready.
Yeah, throughout my teaching, I recognize key barriers to the student learning, such as a poor attitude from parents, teachers, and the learners towards the student with the learning environment, insufficient teaching and learning resources, lack of recognition for learners with mild environments, and the most importantly, poor transition of partially impaired children. And this indicates that even though inclusive education requires eradicate barriers to learning and remove exclusion in the education system, and its implementation is difficult. I believe that my experience alone is not enough to fully understand these barriers. Intensive research will help eliminate how identify barriers affect student learning and what we can do about it. I do understand that there is a gap to be covered as learners with disabilities and the facing challenges in the education system, while those with the environment are not recognized in the schools. Thus, the research I will conduct may show lack of effort towards the inclusion of students with a disability, since this type of students are facing massive exclusion that may lead them to lose hope and futureless.
Thank you so much, Aden. Perfect. Aden, same question I asked everyone else. So since you read, what did you end up having? By the end of by the conclusion of the paragraph, right? What were you left with? What's the main topic of this paragraph? Aden.
Yeah, it's all the key. It's the barriers to the student learning, to the student in learning, and all I intend is that those barriers now, such as poor attitudes for parents and teachers and learners towards the student in learning. So that's what he means.
Yeah. So now he's giving us some details in a sense, right, Aden? He's giving us some details about what are some of these barriers in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. So we have it right here. Some of the he recognized barriers. Where is it? I recognize. Wait a second. I recognize key barriers to learning, such as poor attitudes from parents, teachers, and learners towards students with learning impairments, insufficient teaching and learning resources, lack of recognition, and most importantly, poor transition for partially impaired children. All of these are examples. So he's telling us what are some of these barriers, right?
Yeah.
Anything else, Aden, that you want to add to this? Anything else? In terms of the intentions of is there anything about the intentions of the author, of the purpose of the text that he's adding? Or anyone else apart from Aden as well, like Chupchumba, Keen, Rukia, do you want to add anything to Aden's reading of the paragraph?
Also now intending barriers for removing learners for exclusion in education system, implementation and difficulty. It's also a barrier, those learners.
So he's telling us also that the implementation is difficult, right, Aden?
Yeah.
The implementation is difficult too. So it's not just the barriers, but even implementing. Like even
it also talks.
Yeah. Keen.
Yeah, it also talks about the something which is not enough in some barriers people will not be understand. Like it says that it is not enough to fulfill and understanding those barriers.
Yeah. So you want absolutely. It's important to and to understand these barriers too, right? You were saying, Keen. Not just that's right.
Because some of them they will not understand how to understand in these barriers, because they are saying that it is not enough to be fulfilled, understand these barriers.
That's right. He's what is he saying exactly here? That's a really good point, Keen, about this fully understanding these barriers. What is the author actually saying? What does that sentence start with? Keen, you want to read from the beginning that sentence? That because you pointed out a really good sentence, I think, inside the paragraph. I can read it otherwise, it's fine. So it says, I believe that my experience alone is not enough to fully understand these barriers. So what is it that is not enough to understand? What is he saying? What is not enough?
He says that I believe that my experience alone is not enough to fulfill the barriers. It means that these barriers of people are using, it may not be enough. So that according to my understanding, say that is needing for some several barriers. Like it's not only for these barriers, but there is another barriers which are hidden to the community.
That's a really good point.
But there's also some other barriers which are hidden for the community, and this may lead them to be evicted for the community.
That's a really excellent point, King, that you brought up. And so in a sense, you're right. He's telling us that there maybe even so he told us in the previous paragraph, he told us that he has had experience as a teacher, right, as a support teacher in programs. So that's how he came to learn about these barriers, right, in the first place. And he told us that basically he has some understanding of these barriers. He showed his understanding right here above where Aden was saying. All these barriers that he mentions, right? The poor attitudes, insufficient teaching resources, and lack of recognition for learners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then he tells us, actually, you know what, there may be even, you're right, there may be even other barriers that are hidden, that are not apparent, they're not evident, they're not visible maybe, but that I'm missing too, right? And if I'm missing it as someone who has experience, the community might be missing it too. They might not be seeing these other barriers. So how does he suggest that he can try to fully understand them then? How does he suggest that he can actually get a better understanding? Rukia.
The reason why he was suggested that to be not really understand means that this person has never done for several survey, because when you're doing for a research, you will not reach in every person as the way it is, or there's some you take for the research in as a little people, like 2 to 3 people when you're taking for the research with a different terms. So that in this, when this person doing for this research, he realized that the research he has been taken was having for some difficult issues, and he has been realized that in this person to be, there's also some other things which I'm missing for it, especially in this one.
Yeah, Rukia, that's a really good point. Rukia, you were trying to, yes, go for it. You were also trying to chime in. I heard you.
Yeah, the other was basically suggesting that it was not enough for him to do the research alone and understand this barrier, but it requires quick response by joint assessment or support from other people, either humanitarian organization or other staff or NGOs or the government, to look jointly and collectively do research on some of these problems that is going on and noticed within the community. So he needed some greater support. That is what we want to suggest.
That's very, very, very good points, both Rukia and Keen. And I think you're right. He's gesturing to this idea that he needs more sources, right? He needs more sources. He needs, whether these are other textbooks or articles or people, he needs more sources in a sense. So his understanding of the issue as someone who worked in it is not enough. It's not sufficient. He needs to maybe do some research. He needs other sources. He needs other people, participants perhaps. So what he's suggesting is that he wants to undertake a research, right? Which is what you, Rukia and Keen, both were saying. So he wants to undertake a research process. He wants to actually write a research project that can elaborate this further, right? So look at other sources, look at articles, look at other people, have other perspectives, and see what he's missing in a sense to really understand what's happening. Does that make sense? And better understand. Yeah, I think we're doing really well. Okay. Because we're pressured by time, I mean, I would have liked to continue reading. I would have liked to continue reading the next few paragraphs too, but I don't think we have time to go through all of them. So maybe what we can try to do is we can try to summarize, basically, the 3 paragraphs that we've read, and try to create up summaries similar to the one I did before, right? So it's following that structure. So if we use that structure, here I'm gonna try, and what I'll do is I will, here, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try doing something. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing and then I'm gonna reshare, but I'm gonna share 2 things at the same time. I'm gonna share both the text on one side and then the structure of the what's it called, of the summary on the other side. So if you give me a few seconds, guys, and then I'll open, because I'm trying to open 2 documents at the same time. That's why. Okay, where's the structure? In the meantime, are there any questions in the sense of, in terms of the exercise, or any comments, anything we missed?
I think my side, I don't have a question. The
Yes.
session was nice, and the way we have done is something is recommendable. And in fact, initially, I was not I was not familiar with the way the way I've understood now. And in fact, it's something that I have improved today with this summary.
I'm glad, Aden. I'm glad I'm really happy when you say it's useful, you know, because I mean, I'm really happy to hear that. It makes me happy in a sense to hear that things are useful, the things I have planned. Thank you for that. All right.
Thank you.
Can you all see this? Tell me if you can all see this, like both documents. Are you able to see both of them on the screen? Because I've never tried this before in a sense, so I just did want to know. Can you see both like the text on one side and then the structure of a summary on the other?
Yeah. We are seeing.
Visible? Okay, thank you so much, Aden. Okay, so based on what we said, so if you had to say the main topic, the main subject, right? Remember, main topic, we mean the main subject that's being discussed, right? In this text, what is the main subject discussed? I think we said this. Yes, Aden.
The main subject we have discussed is that inclusivity.
Yeah, inclusive education, correct. So what we would say in the first sentence is the author, or either we can say the text or the author, the text addresses inclusive education. Would that be? Does everyone agree that that's?
Yeah, we agree.
Thank you. I think that, Ruki, I think that was you, right? The text addresses inclusive education. Okay, so we said the main topic, one sentence. Now, how is the main topic or the main subject, we would say? So how is inclusive education addressed? So what is the author's position in a sense? What is he arguing?
Position, gender.
Yeah, sorry, Rukia. Yeah, say that again.
He positions the principles of inclusive education. Gender.
Yeah. So he positions the importance of
inclusive education to the community and some of the barriers that's affecting inclusive education.
And some of the barriers, that's right, they're affecting inclusive education. Aden, you were trying to add. I heard your voice.
Yeah, we also talks about disability, learners with the special needs.
That's right.
Yeah.
So disabilities, specifically learners with disabilities, right? He's specifically concerned with. Okay, what else? What else would you add?
Yeah, the other goal reflected more on doing more research in the future, in order to get more resources. That this only research is not enough to know some of the barriers.
Yeah. So the author seeks more research.
Yeah, more research. To fully cover the barriers within the society. To fully uncover some of the problems, challenges, issues affecting inclusive education.
I like that. Nice, Rukia. So you see what you just did there, Rukia? That's great. You used a word. You used one word that the author used, fully, right? Fully. And that's an important word because it's the same word that was used by the author. And it's great because he's talking about fully understanding, and that's right. So to fully uncover and understand the barriers that exist, right? That hinder, not just exist, the barriers that hinder the provision of inclusive education, right? You're right. Anything else?
Yeah, the other also looks the children's rights and quality education.
Sorry, Adam, say that again.
Yeah, rights of learners and the quality education.
Yeah. Okay, so now, anything else that I haven't heard from Chimchumba? I haven't heard from Chimchumba. I haven't heard from Keen. Keena Chimchumba, do you want to add anything, or do you feel like we need to, or how can we also, if you don't want to add anything because you don't have anything to add, how can we begin to now condense it? How can we begin to actually give it shape? Because right now, all it is right now, it's a series of points, right? Which summarize the reading really well, but they're not a coherent paragraph. Remember, summaries are coherent paragraphs, right? You want to create a coherent paragraph, so like something that flows. So how can we do that? So we have a few ideas here, which were presented in the text, and I think you summarized the text really well in terms of key points. So we have the text addresses inclusive education. The author positions the importance of inclusive education. Sorry. The author posits, we could say not positions, but posits the importance of inclusive education and some of the barriers that are affecting inclusive education. Does he say, do we know where? Where exactly? Does the text tell us where these barriers, like where is this happening?
In Hagadera.
In Hagadera, yes, that's correct. So perhaps maybe do you think, Chuchumba, is that important to add, do you think, to the summary?
Yeah, it's important because it's showing the location.
That's right. And so it's giving
But
us,
I'm lost.
Tell me.
I'm lost somewhere. That is why I'm keeping quiet. Can I say, or?
Yeah, absolutely, Chuchumba, please.
I understand from the beginning, we've been analyzing paragraph.
That's right.
And according to maybe the way I used to understand, a paragraph is a complete text where it has the topic sentence, that is the main argument, the supporting sentences, and then the conclusive part, the body part, that is the body, and the conclusion. Now we are using, personally, where I'm getting lost is we are taking them each main topic to be the topic, main topic to be discussed. In a nutshell, I could have, what I expected is maybe if we could read the whole text, we get the one main topic to be discussed in the text, and then how the main topic is discussed from the various paragraphs. Then now from the whole reading, we get to know whether the author successfully has accomplished the whatever is addressing. So where I was getting lost is now, how do we go along of arranging this, because we have now more than one main topic to be discussed.
Right, that's right, you're right.
Yeah, in the first main topic that we sought was inclusive education. And then we had another main topic there on the barriers and difficulties with students with disabilities face. Then we went ahead. If we go to the next paragraph, we're going to get another main topic.
That's right.
Having more than one main topic, that is where now I'm getting lost.
That's right. And I can see, yeah, yes. So I heard someone else.
And the other, since the main topic was one and it was fully one main topic that should be discussed is within this context, the other wants to break down and give much details on the title, what the main title is all about, because we cannot talk only the title when the details of that title reflecting the whole story is not brought to the table. So inclusive education, we understand that the text is all about inclusive education, but within that context, so many issues arise within the main idea. So there is that breakdown whereby we are coming to know some of those issues that is related to the inclusive education, like we have talked about some of the barriers, how those barriers is affecting the system, and how can we go about those barriers, and that the author is not in it's not fully convinced how his research, because you want to do more research in order to break these barriers. So it is necessary that the breakdown is shown, and then the whole issue is concluded.
Thank you, Rukia.
Please,
Thank you for the
Chipchumba, go. You
information.
can respond, Chipchumba, if you want.
That's
Yeah.
my understanding. I think the
Yeah,
Michael
I really
explain more.
appreciate Rukia. I really appreciate the breakdown. The only
Thank
issue,
you.
we are together in this everything, we are together in it. But the only where I was getting lost is here. Now the breakdown, I thought maybe, I understand to be corrected. I thought the breakdown of the sub statements after the main topic is going to serve as how the main topic is discussed. I have no issue about the other one. I had the only issue, which are we going to go for the main topic? Even in the summary of Marco, he's saying that the main topic discussed should be one sentence.
That's right. No,
Yeah, thank you.
Chumba, I see really, really well what you're saying. And here, let me do something actually. Let me close that summary that we were building in just for a second. Okay, I see really well what you're saying, Chumba, and thank you, Rikia, also for your response. What I'll add is this. I think you're right. I think maybe one of the issues is simply that I also called these main topics, right? And I shouldn't have, Chumba, you're correct. I should have said paragraph topic, not main topic, right? That was I think it's my mistake. I shouldn't have said the main topic for each paragraph. I should have said paragraph topic, and paragraph topic, not main topic, because you're correct. What your question is hinting at, I think, Chachumba, is how do we, in a sense, take the paragraph topics and then understand what the main topic is? Does that sound like what you were trying to hint at, Chachumba? So in a sense, how we go from all these paragraphs to separate paragraph topics to understanding what the main topic is, which is really what Rukia was also trying to say, I think. She was also arguing that, well, we know that the text is about inclusive education because we can see it. But so, Chipchumba, am I right in saying that is your question in a sense? How do we take it from paragraph topic to main topic or main subject of a text? I mean, and to answer that question, I would say, well, first of all, I mean, we didn't really finish reading the text, so that's part of the problem, right? I mean, we would have to continue reading the text, and perhaps that's maybe what you could do at home on your own. Is you can continue reading the text, and you can attempt to write a summary of this on your own, and send it to me, and then I can give you some feedback, and next week we can have a look at the summaries you've created. How does that sound? Because the session today, I think we're running out of time, and I think it's almost prayer time soon for all of you, many of you at least. So what I would suggest is you guys can continue reading, finish reading the text on your own, and then attempt to write a summary based on the structure that we said, basically, right? So essentially, what you're doing is you're summarizing this article. How does that sound? Does that sound reasonable as an assignment and as a way forward? And so this way, Chachumba, what you can do is, and I'm speaking to you specifically because you asked the question, but I mean this is for everyone, obviously. What you can do is you can attempt to do it yourself. You can show me next week how it is that you go from paragraph topic to main topic, and then I can offer you my suggestions on how other ways and other strategies you can do that. How does that sound?
I'm back.
Yes,
I'm sorry. The laptop was running low power, so I had to move somewhere else. Now I'm back.
So basically,
I was lost.
Tell me.
The last one I had from you was when you changed to paragraph topic.
That's right, because
Yeah.
I believe that one of the problems I think that came about Chachumba, and I think that's what you were hinting at, is the fact that I called those main topics, right? So
Yeah.
it was in a sense, it's my mistake. I shouldn't have called them main topics. I should have called them main paragraph, like paragraph main topic, or second paragraph topic, and so forth. Because you're right, they are just the topics of that paragraph, not the topic of the whole text. So that was my mistake. You're right, and that's my apologies for that. I might have created some confusion by using the idea of main topic. My bad for that, Chuchuba.
No problem.
The other thing I was saying, so you're right in pointing that out, so I did change those. But the other thing I was saying is, so the question that you're asking really, I think to me is how do we go from paragraph topic to main topic, right? How do we choose the main topic based on all the paragraph topics, right, Chachumba?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a summary. And so what I said, what my answer was, try it this week. Try to finish reading the text and try to write a summary for this text based on the structure that I gave you, right? Based on that structure. Yeah. And then next week, what we'll do is each one of you will tell me how you went, how you did it, how you managed to go from paragraphs to text, the main text. And then what I will do is each one will tell me how they did it, and then each one of you will say how they did it, and then we will look at together some strategies on how we can do that. Okay, Chipchumba, how does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great. That one sounds great, and I would request you that you share with us with the
absolutely,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. So what I'll do is after we're done, I'm going to share with you the video recording. I'm going to share with you the text, and I'm going to share with you again the structure of a summary. Okay, I suggest a structure for the summary, and then then you guys can work on, each one of you can work individually, work on the summary, and I want you to do it individually, not in groups this time. I want you to, each one of you, do it individually, and you can either send it to me, the summary, this week, or you can just show it or you can present it to me in class next week. I would suggest that you submit it to me beforehand so that I can have a look at it beforehand. But then and then we can look at all the summaries together for the same text in class next Friday. Okay? And then we'll look at the different strategies which were used by each one of you, and I'll suggest my own strategies, how I would have done it if I were to do the exercise too. Actually, you know what? I will do the exercise too. So that way we all do our summaries. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
We'll close the session here for today because I know that it's prayer time in a few minutes, and so thank you all for your participation. It was a great session. I had a really good time. It was really rich, I think, and I hope it was useful for all of you. And take care. Keep me updated on the developments there and what's happening with the camps. I know that, as Aden was telling me, the situation is a very urgent and not the best at the moment. I know that much. So please keep me updated on that too. I look forward to seeing your summaries, and I will see you all next week on Friday. Okay?
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I see you all. Bye, Aden. Take care. Rukia, thank you for staying on, and everyone. And Keen and Chachumba, I saw that they dropped, unfortunately, from the call. But I will see you all next week. Take care, Aden.
Okay,
Take care, Rukia.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rukia. Take care, all of you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.